All right, what's up, Panther Nation? This is your guy, Big Brother A, and I'm here to discuss our upcoming preseason matchup against the Buffalo Bills. Um, we saw the announcement from Dave Canales that the starters will play. That's not shocking. This is technically our first preseason game, if you don't count the Hall of Fame game. We still have three preseason games. And they're predicting, stating we're going to do about 10 to 20 reps, probably, maybe the offense to get two go-rounds. We'll see. If you compare from last year, the first preseason game last year, the starters actually played in that game. And we played two reps in that game. And the reason being is for that was I'll go into that. I'll go into that a little bit later. But yeah, the starters are going to play, and we're sort of anxious for that because of the play of Haynes King, who is hurt, who will probably be out for the rest of the preseason. Currently hurt and currently injured, and we want to see what Bryce Young does with this offense. All right, let's be straightforward. That's who we want to see play. So, even though, the starters are playing, to be honest, Panther Nation, we don't really care about the defense. Okay? We do have some things we do need to know on defense, but we really don't care about the defense. We really want to see how the offense does. Okay? So yeah, let's, some other tidbits. Like I said, with defense, there's a competition. Trevor Wallace will have to compete for a spot against Clyde Sherrillis. I will go into that a little bit more later, but that second inside linebacker spot is open. Okay? It's open for competition. So, very interesting on that part. Next is Kyle Trask. We signed him. Not surprising because we needed a third quarterback. Kyle Trask is probably going to play all of the third preseason game. So, there's not much on him. Don't really expect much, if anything, from him. Just needed really just quarterback that's going to do something and play a little bit. He's probably not going to, last on the team. And he has some familiarity with Dave Canales. Dave Canales tried to get him with the Bucks. But, another interesting tidbit is practice was chippy. Practice was pretty chippy yesterday. Okay, Lathan Ransom, he apparently laid a pretty hard hit on Jonathan Brooks in practice, and Bryce Young didn't like that. So Bryce Young starts, letting out his frustrations, and he ended up getting into it with Mike Jackson. And then Luke Fortner jumped in, and then it turns into, a little brief brawl. But yeah, some chippiness, and seemed like some tempers flared a little bit. So, don't know how to take it. Don't know if we were excited for the, chippiness because we feel like the team is more aggressive, more passionate, or are we seeing some of the chippiness as coaches not keeping the players under control? I don't know how to take it, to be honest. Normally, I would like the chippiness to show the passionate. I do. So, in a positive way, I do like that the defense is really aggressive. And I do like that Bryce decided to stand up for Jonathan Brooks. But yeah, could be a bad thing as well. But let's talk about the first thing, the starters, so-called, or really, like I said, the quarterbacks for this first preseason game. So we really only care about seeing how the quarterbacks play, okay? Everyone has been talking a lot about Haynes King. You know, we really want to see how Bryce and Kenny Pickett do at quarterback. You know, I have listed the stat sheet score from preseason game in 2025. Us versus the Texans. This is our second game, okay? So not the first one. First one, we lost 30-10 to the Cleveland Browns. But I posted the second one just because, just some tidbits. Our quarterbacks were horrible in this game, all right? Completely horrible, right? It's showing Jake Plummer with his 2 interceptions and barely 83 yards. He played horrible. But what's not shown is Andy Dalton played a little bit and he looked horrible. All right, Bryce Young played a little bit. He looked horrible. We went 3 and out in the first series, and then we didn't put him back in. So I don't know if Panther Nation remember, a lot of people were dismayed by the team at this point. And, you know, the whole thing, Dave Canales was just like, hey, I do not, you know, I don't take preseason serious. You know, the starters didn't have to play much, but everyone at quarterback looked horrible. And we knew Andy Dalton was done pretty much then. We knew Jack Plummer was not an NFL caliber quarterback, but we trotted him out. We trotted him out into the season. And we didn't look for a replacement or any other type of potential help. We just trotted him out, and that was bad. So, you know, I placed this up just to look at, you know, for this game and the next game, I believe the Jaguars play against the Jaguars. You know, I really wonder how much our starters will play. Okay, because if we do what we did last year, Bryce is going to get 2 series and maybe 1 series the next game, and then that's it. All right, and let me remind you, for last year, we went against the Browns. We went 3 and out. All right, 3 and out. I believe it was a sack in the first series, but Bryce did come back in the second series for some good plays. He threw, I believe, a touchdown to Jalen Coker. Went 4-6 for that game. But then for this game, 3 and out, first series. So what I want to see specifically from Bryce is, can we get at least a first down drive going in the preseason? Not 3 and out, okay? Even if you go further back, we've had a problem with 3 and outs with Bryce in preseason, even back in 2024. So I want to see some early success from the offense, especially from the starters. From Kenny Pickett, I want to see if he is better than Andy Dalton and Jack Plummer was last year. You know, we couldn't really see anything from offense because Jack Plummer was so horrible. So we, you know, I want to see if Kenny Pickett can at least show that he's decent. Okay, can he show that he's at least a decent quarterback against backups? You know, we lost. We got beat down in all our 3 preseason games last year. I actually want us to compete to win, just like we did, just like Haynes King, we did this Hall of Fame game. I want us to actually try to win all of our preseason games. I want us to compete. Hey, that's something we have not done since Dave Canales has taken over as head coach, compete in the preseason. I want us to try to win all our preseason games. So I wonder if Dave Canales' philosophy will change a little. But that's where here that's what we're gonna expect of. We're gonna expect him to want to compete this year and change up more and just change up his ideology about preseason. Okay? You don't have to be so lax. You could take it somewhat serious. But these are who we're really paying attention to. Okay? We don't really want to know about anything on defense, how Lee Hunter is gonna progress. Everyone really, really wants to know about Bryce. Okay? Bryce and Kenny Pickett. Okay? We really want to know about the quarterbacks. So we're going to pay attention to those two specifically for this next game and against the Jaguars after. Next two preseason games. So let's just see how they play. Next, we're going to talk about a little inside linebacker competition. Trevor Wallace versus Claudius Sherrill. You can go on Panthers.com. They had written an article about the competition. If you pay attention, there's a good bit of praise for Sherrill, saying how physical he plays, how he stands out in his play. And, they more so just threw in some acknowledgement of Trevor Wallace. Like, okay, yeah, he's good too. But let's focus on both these players because I'm not a big Trevor Wallace fan. All right, Trevor Wallace is, we've had this sort of motif with linebackers recently. It used to be wide receivers, okay, second round wide receivers, where we would, because Musa Muhammad was so successful, we would keep drafting possession wide receivers in the second round who were not good, who did not last with us or the NFL, period. So, with that, poor motif, that was Dwayne Jarrett, okay, Terrence Marshall, Jonathan Mingo, Kerry Colbert. That's seemed like we might have fixed that problem finally. Maybe. Okay? With T-Mac, but we didn't draft him in the second rounds. But, we had that motif. Now, with linebacker, it's day two linebackers, okay, with extremely high RAS scores. So that would include DJ Johnson. He was a personal Vero favorite. That would include Trevor Wallace here. I also include Brandon Smith. Okay, Brandon Smith did not last long with the Panthers. I believe only 1 year really, and then into the second year he was cut. Amira Barno, he was later round, but I think the better choice is Brandon Smith. So Brandon Smith, DJ Johnson, and these are guys not really any college production, but just extremely high relative athletic scores for day two linebacker prospects. Now, why do I want us to get away from that? Okay, because we suck at it. All right, point blank, we suck at it. We suck at drafting high RS score linebackers day two. All right, and I think Trevor Wallace is a continuation of that suckage. All right, we tried to make DJ Johnson work. Okay, we could not make him work. We're trying to make Trevor Wallace work. Okay, it's just not going to work. In the preseason game he played, okay, he actually played in the Hall of Fame preseason game. He did not look good. All right, he still looks confused, and that should not be shocking. Linebacker is sort of like those positions like running backs where they usually jump in basically flowing. There's not much of a learning curve. Usually if you're a great running back, you will start off as a great running back, you might not peak, but you start off pretty good. Same with linebacker. If you're a good linebacker, you have those instincts. You usually start off as a pretty good linebacker. You know, and we haven't seen that with Trevor Wallace. Okay, so he was drafted as a project. You know, a good thing to check. Actually check PFF's. And I'm using PFF, like I said, because we're so analytically based it now. Look at how they graded our 2024 NFL draft. All right. So, to be honest, everybody in our 2024 NFL draft is on watch mode for this whole preseason and season. All right. Because that draft is looking horrible in retrospect. Horrible. All right. And if you look at PFF score, there was only one team that had a lower grade than we did for that draft, and that was the Falcons. And that year, the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr., number 8. Michael Penix Jr. right now is losing out to Tua Tagovailoa, and he's been hurt. He tore his ACL, and who knows if he's gonna last on the team. So that's the only team that had a worse grade than us for that year. And when you look at everyone on that list, Xavier Legette, we need to see what we're gonna get from him. Okay, we need to see if he has any connection with Bryce Young. Before Chris Brazile got hurt, there were rumors that we might, even trade Xavier Legette before the season start, depending on how Chris Brazile played. So you got Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks. He's been hurt back-to-back seasons. How will he come out as a running back? All right, we drafted him in the second, even though we had Chuba. Okay, we still got Chuba as a starter. How would Jonathan Brooks complement him? We got Trevor Wallace. We're going to see with him. Jatavian Sanders. Shaw Smith-Wade. He's actually been pretty decent as a nickel. And just, I believe that's really it. So we need to see how some of those guys play. But let's do Trevor Wallace, okay? So he's 6'1", 244. Very solid linebacker. He's only 23. Okay, so he's very young. Very young. All right, and his PFF score total for last year was 56.4, which is below average. All right, so we know he struggled. He ended up getting the dot to call plays. Thought that would help. Might have helped a little bit, but really didn't help at all. If you look back at his score in the playoff game, he actually did horrible. So he did horrible in that playoff game against the Rams. All right, I'm talking about grades in the 40s. All right, which why we went and got Devin Lloyd, an inside linebacker. All right, so Devin Lloyd is going to be our main middle linebacker. But number 2, they're hoping Trevor Wallace can progress to at least be a decent number 2 inside linebacker for 3-4. Now, looking at physical, I see why they liked him. At the time when we drafted him, PFF, as you can see, wrote it that we drafted him because of his athleticism. So, they thought it was shocking, but, they say look at his production in college. Okay, his production just was not good, and they thought, hey, he could develop. No, okay, not with us. Then Claudius Sherrillis, all right, so this guy, he started out Alcorn State, shout out to my HBCUs. Then he went to UMass. He sort of bounced around. Then he went to the Jets. Didn't make it to their final roster. Then we picked him up. He sort of stayed as a backup for the most part. Stayed injured. So he got injured in 2 seasons with us, but we, I guess, saw some potential. And then he really got some time to play last season. And specifically, I remember a game we were getting beat down, and he came in and he actually was laying the lumber with some of his hits and tackles. And I really liked that intensity from him because it seemed like we were missing it from Trevor Wallace and Roseboom. And I'm thinking the coaches are starting to see, like, hey, this guy is bringing more than Trevor Wallace. All right. Now, I understand why you would want the 23-year-old that you drafted to beat out the 6'2", 230. Claude Charles is already 27. You would want Trevor Wallace to beat out Claude Charles. All right. But I think Claude Charles' skill set actually matches well with Devin Lloyd. If he's going to be the run-stopping, hard-hitting, fighting blocks linebacker, Devin Lloyd, that gives him more ability to be in coverage, which he excelled at last season, and actually more flexibility to blitz himself, so which he excelled at. So, I think the coaches are slowly moving towards Charles. Right, I think so. I think, I don't think it's a real competition. I think Charles is going to beat out Trevor Wallace. I think they see that Trevor Wallace is just not going to get it at inside linebacker. I think with Trevor Wallace, you're going to have to put him at maybe like outside linebacker and just make him a pass rusher and see if he can do something with that. Just make him a blitzer. Like, maybe he could use athleticism for that, but it seems like his instincts are not there. But who knows? His Clauden's PFF score, there wasn't enough snaps, they stated, but they said the total was like 59.2, which wasn't good as well. So, I'm hoping there's a third guy that can compete in there, like Jackson Kuwach. All right? I hope it's like an open competition between all inside linebackers. But seems like, and this was an area that PFF noted that we really needed to take advantage of to fix. And that's why they were actually predicting us to get an inside linebacker in the second round. I wonder how this is going to turn out. Okay? There's something with, on the defense that I actually will sort of like pay attention to see if they're playing one linebacker more than the other. But I'm hoping it's not just between Trevor Wallace and Charles. I'm hoping like Jackson Kuwach. I'm hoping there's another inside linebacker that we can look at. Or maybe even think about picking up. But yeah, I just wanted to focus on those two, quick topics. The preseason game is not till Saturday. Let's see how serious or how aggressive the Panthers coaching are with the play calls and the style of play for that preseason game. Okay, I want to see how we how serious we take this preseason game, and I want us to win. Okay, I want us to compete and win in all the preseason games this year, and that's what Canales needs to do to change the atmosphere or change what we think of him for early seasons, because we can't have another slow start. All right, we can't have another 1-4 start. All right, 1-4 start. I think somebody got to go. Okay, we got early bye 2. Starting that slow again, somebody has to go. Okay, we can't have that. All right, so let's see if we switch it up. But yeah, for the starters, yes, this is inside linebacker competition, but overall, I'm actually looking at the whole offense. Okay, Marmor Freeling at right tackle. I'm looking at the new center, Luke Fortner. I'm looking at tight end. Tommy Tremble is still the starter, but I want to see how Mitchell Evans progress. Want to see if Jatavian Sanders actually is able to do anything. Looks like he might be just stuck at tight end 3. I want to see how Jonathan Brooks does. Okay, Travis Etienne. They're trying to get him some play at special teams. I don't think he's a good special teamer. I think he's a better running back. So let's see how he plays. And definitely Bryce and Kenny Pickett. So let's hope the offense actually shows something and impress us, just like how excited we were after the Hall of Fame game. Let's see if we continue that. But that's all I want to pull out for today. You guys, put in your comments. Is there any specific player or players that you're looking at for this upcoming first, preseason game to see who you want to see, whether they progress or if we replace them or what? Just in the comments, place the player you really want to focus on, and just make sure to like and subscribe. All right, so I'll be back, probably with Big Brother Jay, where we could talk Thursday a little bit more about this upcoming game against the Bills, because we can dive into, hey, the Bills just Let go of Sean McDermott, who coached under Ron Rivera. Okay, we have former Panther DJ Moore, currently with the Buffalo Bills. Do we think he's going to actually sort of get this consistent quarterback play? How will he do with them? DJ Moore is like one of my personal was one of my personal favorite wide receivers, and we did not do right by him. To be honest, we didn't do right by him. But we'll talk about that more in the future. But all right, guys, stay cool and just make sure to like and subscribe. Peace.